sorted. Let's pray. We'll ask for God's help. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for focusing our eyes on Jesus, our great high priest. We thank you that now he is not dead and buried in a grave, but he is alive. He's at your right hand, the place of joy. And so we pray that you would focus our eyes on him this morning and show us what it means to live a life that is made sense of by him, that is living for him, giving glory to him. And so we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Before we get into Ecclesiastes, I want to run 4 things past you to see if they make sense, and if they do, we'll come back to it at the end. Do you get the idea that you can take something as small as like a 1p coin, and you can use it to block out the sun from your face? So if you take a 1p and you hold it rightly, the sun, which granted we don't see very often, but you can position something as small as a penny, and it can block from your sight something as massive as the sun. Do you get that? Okay, second one. Balloons, right? Everyone like balloons? Yeah. Ruben loves balloons at the moment, and he's currently... That's pretty small, isn't it? One of the things that's funny about Ruben is he's at that stage where this is massively entertaining, but also he can jump on this and he bounces off it rather than it bursting, which isn't true for most of us. But kind of fun until what happens? Bang, right? And then it's tears. Third thing. If you've ever been to like a really posh do or a posh restaurant or maybe a posh wedding, sometimes you'll get there and they'll bring a plate to you that's got really tiny things on them. They're called, like, is it aperitifs? Or hors d'oeuvres or something like that.
Don't ask Calvin that.
One of the things, right, I remember being at one of these things with a guy who saw the hors d'oeuvres coming out and was like, is that it? Like, I knew posh stuff was small when it's on a plate, but is that all we're getting? This kind of tiny, I think it was a burger. But you know that kind of thing? You're like, is that it? Now the point of an hors d'oeuvre is there's more to come, right? Did you get that? Okay, 4th thing. If there was going to be a fight between a living dog or a dead lion, who would win? Why? Because the lion's dead. Okay. So the 4 things, right? 1p in the sun, balloon, hors d'oeuvres, and you got, what was the last one? Living dog versus dead lion. Okay, into Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes so far has been this. We spend our lives under the sun trying to chase the wind. But this life is breath-like. It's over before we know it. We spend that breath-like life breathless. And at the end of it, we have nothing. Hands full of air. Nothing is satisfied, nothing quenched, nothing was enough, nothing gave rest, nothing made us full, and we end our lives with nothing. And some of us have lived a life where we have tried to find satisfaction in absolutely everything. And we've tried doctor or dealer, legal or illegal, education or inebriation. We've tried it all. Nothing's worked. Now, some of us haven't gone to those kind of obvious extremes. Some of us go a little bit more subtle. And rather than trying to catch the wind by things we've done, we try and catch the wind by things that we know. And we've seen this a couple of times in the book of Ecclesiastes. We think, if I can learn everything there is to know about the wind, then I'll be able to catch the wind. Maybe knowledge is the answer. Life is brief and brutal, but maybe I'll be able to cope if I can understand what's going on. And we do this in different ways. Some of us go the academic route. If I can work out origins and look at history and look at the mechanics of things, then I'll be able to catch meaning. Some of us, maybe less academic, go for like personal knowledge. Maybe if I know me at my most meaty and like my emotions, then I'll catch meaning. Some of us go like local knowledge. If I can be the person with their finger on the pulse who knows all the local gossip, then I'll catch meaning. We're all thinking of Suzanne, right? I don't know. Eyes over there. Some of us go conspiracy knowledge, don't we? Oh, if I can just understand how the Illuminati are in control of everything, then I'll catch meaning. Some of us go the kind of why knowledge. See if I can just understand why God has put me in this period of suffering. Then I'll catch meaning. But all of these things, we are grasping and kind of groping, trying to catch the wind. Now, the purpose of these 2 chapters of Ecclesiastes is to smash to smithereens any notion that we can catch the wind by what we know. Or, to put it another way, it is trying to smash to smithereens any notion that we can be like God in what we know. Let me show you this first by showing you the 4 corner pieces of the jigsaw of these 2 chapters. I hate jigsaws, but apparently when you do a jigsaw, you try and get the 4 corners, right? So look at the start and the end of chapter 8 and the start and the end of chapter 9, and we'll see what's going on here. So look at chapter 8, verse 1. He starts off by saying, "Who's like the wise? Who knows the explanation of things?" Who knows? Look at the end of chapter 8, verse 17. "Then I saw all that God has done. No one can comprehend what goes on under the sun. Despite all their efforts to search it out, no one can discover its meaning. Even if the wise claim they know, they cannot really comprehend it." Look at chapter 9, verse 1. "So I reflected on all this and concluded that the righteous and the wise and what they do are in God's hands, but no one knows whether love or hate awaits them." Look at chapter 9, verse 12, which is where we're going to finish this morning. "Moreover, no one knows when their hour will come. As fish are caught in a cruel net, or birds are taken in a snare, so people are trapped by the evil times that fall unexpectedly upon them." See the 4 corners of the puzzle? Who knows? No one can comprehend it. No one knows. No one knows. You are meant to come away from Ecclesiastes 8 and 9 knowing for sure that there is very little you actually know for sure. And we can have maybe vague impressions or illusions that we know stuff, and they maybe give us an illusion of having control in this life, but they are only illusions. And there's actually far more that we are ignorant of than we actually know. And I think as this confronts us this morning, it actually shows us how terrifying this is. So we're going to see 2 things. One in Ecclesiastes 8, the uncertainties of life. One in Ecclesiastes 9, the certainty of death. That's where we're going this morning. First then, chapter 8, the uncertainties of life. In chapter 8, we're going to read it together. We're hit by 3 things that are massively uncertain about our existence under the sun. The first one is this: the uncertainties of authority. Let's read from chapter 8, verse 1 through to verse 6. He says, "Who is like the wise? Who knows the explanation of things? A person's wisdom brightens their face and changes its hard appearance. Obey the king's command, I say, because you took an oath before God. Don't be in a hurry to leave the king's presence. Don't stand up for a bad cause, for he'll do whatever he pleases. Since a king's word is supreme, who can say to him, 'What are you doing?' Whoever obeys his command will come to no harm, and a wise heart will know the proper time and procedure. For there is a proper time and procedure for every matter, though a person may be weighed down by misery." Jump down to verse 9, we'll read that. "All this I saw as I applied my mind to everything done under the sun. There is a time when a man lords it over others to his own hurt. Then too I saw the wicked buried, those who used to come and go in the holy place and receive praise in the city where they did this. This too is meaningless." One of the things that makes life massively uncertain is when you have people in authority who are massively volatile. Now that's a picture you get of this king in Ecclesiastes chapter 8. He starts off this preacher by commanding obedience to this king, and that sounds very black and white, but when he gets into detail, it's actually very grey. This king is more crooked than he is straight, which makes obedience to him more complex than straightforward. Here's a king that you need to be very careful how you leave his presence. Here's a king that you need to be very careful what things you stand up for. Here's a king that you need to be very careful how you question him. Because he's the type of king that loves to lord it over other people. Now, if you've lived under that kind of person with that kind of authority, that makes life for you very uncertain because he is so volatile. And there may be, as verse 6 and 7 says it, there is a proper time and procedure for every matter. Now that's great. My problem is, I don't know what the proper procedure is to go with the right time. Especially when you've got someone who you don't know how he's going to react. Especially when that person has a huge amount of power. If I do the wrong procedure at the right time, or the right procedure at the wrong time, what's going to happen to me? Which is why, end of verse 6, it says, a person may be weighed down by misery. The uncertainties of authority can make life miserable. And that may be your experience, maybe with a parent, maybe with a partner, maybe with the police, maybe with social work, maybe with a boss at work. And life is full of uncertainties and it makes life miserable. Someone else been there? Second uncertainty. Look at verse 7 and 8. Uncertainty about the future. Verse 7. Since nobody knows the future, who can tell someone else what is to come? As no one has power over the wind to contain it, so no one has power over the time of their death. As no one is discharged in time of war, so wickedness will not release those who practice it. His point is this. You don't know the future. Incidentally, this is why bookmakers are rolling in billions of pounds and why gamblers are stupid. Because nobody knows the future. It is so uncertain. Think about it this way. How much of your emotions are either spent or wasted by being anxious about tomorrow? We pile so... How infuriating is it when someone just comes to you and says, it will all be okay? Is that not the most annoying thing in the world? Because they don't know. I hate it when it'll all be okay. You don't know that. You do not have the power. I do not have the power to know what the wind is going to do tomorrow. You do not have the power to know what is going to happen in my future. You have no power over death. As he says in these verses, you have no way of releasing me in the future from what my wickedness in the past has enslaved me to. The future is so uncertain and we are powerless in the face of it. Third thing, the uncertainties of injustice. Look at verse 11, we'll read to verse 14. When the sentence for a crime is not quickly carried out, people's hearts are filled with schemes to do wrong. Although a wicked person commits 100 crimes, may live a long time, I know that it will be better for those who fear God, who are reverent before him. Yet because the wicked do not fear God, it will not go well with them, and their days will not lengthen like a shadow. There's something else meaningless that occurs on earth. The righteous get what the wicked deserve, and the wicked who get what the righteous deserve. This too, I say, is meaningless. This is not fair. How often do we say that? We see in life good people getting what bad people should get, and bad people getting what good people should get. Looking at life under the sun, sometimes it looks as if the wicked people are getting paid well, and the good people have got a bad deal. If you feel like that, you need to go and read Psalm 73. The Bible's full of people who look at earth and say, this is not fair. But on both sides of that, whether you are a wicked person who's getting away with it and doing well, or a righteous person who's struggling and getting battered for it, actually both of those positions can lead to massive uncertainty. Say you're a good person who seems to be suffering. It may be that we know, as he says, deep down I know that it will end better for me if I fear God. Sometimes what we see in front of our face makes us uncertain of it in our heart. Is this going to be worthwhile? And those who are seemingly loving life and getting away with wickedness, deep down have a conscience within them that says, I'm constantly looking over my shoulder wondering when I will get caught. Actually, both of these things lead to a massively uncertain life. The point is this: who knows? There's no certainty. Who knows? Who knows? And we must not let our knowledge of some things paper over the fact that there is so much that we do not know. I cannot change the past. I cannot control the future. I cannot control the present. I cannot predict the future. And I'm left gasping. How then do I cope? When I escape all my little escapisms, and I'm faced with the reality of the uncertainties of this life, how do I breathe? Been there? Okay, let's keep reading. Because amid all these uncertainties, the preacher throws us a bone, right? One thing you can be certain of. The only thing is, it's the certainty of death. Chapter 9. Let me just read chapter 9, verses 1 to 6, and then we'll skip down to verse 11. Chapter 9, verse 1. So, I reflected on all this, and concluded that the righteous and the wise and what they do are in God's hands. But no one knows whether love or hate awaits them. All share a common destiny. The righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad, the clean and the unclean, those who offer sacrifices and those who don't. As it is with the good, so with the sinful. As it is with those who take oaths, so with those who are afraid to take them. This is the evil in everything that happens under the sun. The same destiny overtakes them all. The hearts of people, moreover, are full of evil, and there's a madness in their hearts while they live, and afterwards they join the dead. Anyone who is among the living has hope. Even a live dog is better off than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, even their name is forgotten. Their love, their hate, their jealousy have long since vanished. Never again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun. Down to verse 11. I've seen something else under the sun. The race is not to the swift, the battle is not to the strong, nor does food come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favour to the learned, but time and chance happen to them all. Moreover, no one knows when their hour will come. As fish are caught in a cruel net, or birds are taken into a snare, so people are trapped by evil times that fall upon them unexpectedly. Here we are groping about in a world of uncertainty, and the only straw to grab a hold of that is certain is the fact that we will die. Even the good face this bad. Even the swift lose this race. Even the strong lose this battle. And there will be a day where food will be no good to the wise, wealth no good to the brilliant, and favour no good to the learned. Time and chance happen to all of us. There is something about seeing a funeral passing you on the street that is good for your soul, because it reminds you that one day you will be caught in a coffin like a bird is caught in a snare or a fish is caught in a net. Like this jigsaw, right? Put it all together and you realise it's a picture of our tombstone. It is our common destiny. Now, as we said time and time again, it's like, Happy Sunday. What is this? And this could send your heart to oblivion, panic attacks, depression, denial, escapism. It could make you never want to leave the house. It could make you never want to go to work. It could make you never want to do anything. It's so dark. But if you've been reading carefully, you'll notice that I deliberately missed out some of the verses at the heart of chapter 8 and some of the verses at the heart of chapter 9. Now, these verses make no sense given what he says around them. So let's dive in. Look at chapter 8, verse 15. Remembering, the surrounding of this verse is, life is uncertain. Right? Then he plonks down verse 15. So, I commend the enjoyment of life. Because there's nothing better for a person under the sun than to eat and drink and be glad. Then joy will accompany them in the toil of all the days of their life God has given them under the sun. And you're left going, what? Life is uncertain. Just be joyful. That makes no sense to me. It's like Eeyore writes chapter 8 and then Tigger just grabs the pen and goes, come on, enjoy it, you Raj, it's fine. Look at chapter 9, same thing. In the middle of all the certainty of death. Look at what he commands in verse 7. Go. Eat your food with gladness. Drink your wine with a joyful heart. For God has already approved what you do. Always be clothed in white and always anoint your head with oil. Enjoy life with your wife whom you love all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun. All your meaningless days. By the way, it makes life sound bad. The word is better. Breath-like. Breathe. For this is your lot in life. All your toilsome labour under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might, for in the realm of the dead where you're going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom. Now again, that makes no sense. Death is certain. Enjoy life. What are you talking about? Let me explain, because actually this is so key to the book of Ecclesiastes. And the main point we need to see this morning is, enjoying life begins by fearing God. Enjoying life begins by fearing God. When he says in verse 15 of chapter 8, there is nothing better than to enjoy life, that better of verse 15 is built on the better of verse 12. Look at verse 12 in chapter 8. I know, halfway through verse 12, I know that it will go better for those who fear God. Now, you're saying, Andy, that's meant to make it simpler. That makes even less sense. How can fear lead to joy? Surely fear robs me of joy. Let me explain it. In fearing God, we can actually begin to have joy. I'm going to give you 4 quick things. Here's the reason why fearing God can bring you joy. First thing, it brings you perspective. Remember the 1p coin in the sun? You can use a 1p coin and hold it in a way that it can block out the sun from your sight. See, when I fear God, and the word is, again in verse 12, when I revere God, that is, I stand and I look at God and I'm in awe of his awesomeness, and I'm gasping at his glory, and I'm humbled by his holiness. I revere the greatness of God. I see him for who he is. That's what it means to fear him. When I revere God, it puts everything else into perspective. The fear of God helps me with my fear of uncertainties. Remember the 3 uncertainties of chapter 8. Fear of the uncertainty of authority, uncertainty of the future, uncertainty of injustice. See, when you get a massive view of God, it transforms those 3 things. Because when I see God as the King of Kings, and I see him sitting on the throne of heaven, his greatness puts a crooked earthly king in his place. See, when I see God in all his greatness, and I see him as the God who holds the future, I'm less stressful about what my future holds. See, when I see God as the God who is the judge of all the earth, who will one day put everything to right, then it gives me a patient endurance while I live on this earth when everything seems to be going wrong. It brings the 1 pence out of the way of the sun, and it reminds me it is tiny and the sun is massive. The uncertainties of life are real but small compared to the real but big God. See, when I wake up in the morning and the first thing that hits me is this wave of uncertainty, that is when life seems too much. But when I wake up in the morning and I realize that there is the solid ground of the greatness of God, I can have joy. Because revering God puts all of those uncertainties in perspective. The coin is only a coin. God is great. I can't change the past. I cannot control the present. I cannot predict the future. But God can forgive my past. He is in control of my present. And he knows my future. Oh, rest my soul. Find joy, oh my soul. The uncertainties of life are trumped by the greatness of God. I can have joy. Joy that Jesus has forgiven me in the past, He's with me in the present, and He has secured for me a future with Him in heaven. See how it gives perspective? Second thing, it relieves pressure. Let me explain. You remember the balloon, right? One of the reasons why we struggle to find lasting joy in this life is we put too much pressure on the things that are meant to give us joy. So imagine this balloon for a minute is all the places that I look to for meaning or significance or purpose or rest, right? So, good things. My identity, or my hopes, or meaning, or purpose for my life. And so I look for them in things like football, or sex, or relationship, or a job. Things that are meant to bring joy. But when I put the weight of meaning and purpose and rest onto that thing, what happens to the balloon? It bursts. The joys of this life were never meant to bear the weight of all these big, massive things. And if you put those things onto your kids, you will crush your kids. And if you put your hopes and dreams onto a partner or anyone else, you will crush that partner, it will burst, and it will burst you. But if we find our meaning and our purpose and our identity in the greatness of God, if He is the one, if He is the foundation that I lean to for those things, guess what I can do with a balloon? Way! All these things. These no longer have the pressure of my everything, and so they can be little trivial things. Do you see how that changes everything? Yes, life is brutal. Yes, there is briefness. But there are blessings. And if they don't bear the weight of all of that pressure, then we can actually find joy in all the little trivial things. And do you know what, right? See, if I lose a blessing, it's okay because I've still got God. He's still there. So when these things burst, yes, it goes up and I go down, but I still have Him. And actually, all the things in life, like uncertainty about authority, uncertainty about the future, injustice, or sickness and death, that maybe feel like they are bursting me, they are all reminders to us that you are not meant to put your hope in anything that can be blown away by the wind. Your hope is in the fear, the revering of God, not in these little blessings. See the point? Third thing. It changes my expectations. When I fear God, and I get His greatness in my view and in my everything, it changes my expectations on where I will find joy. Remember the aperitifs, the hors d'oeuvres? Some people, right, when they realize this, that life is very short, they respond by going, fine, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow I die. And they jump into all these things, drink, alcohol, parties, whatever they want to do, because they think, might as well live fast and die young. They think, if the aperitif is the hors d'oeuvre is all I've got, just get it in now. Get it over with, job's done. But actually, when you fear God, when you see His greatness, it manages your expectations on what I should expect from an hors d'oeuvre, from the joys of this life. Because an hors d'oeuvre is for this, right? Who would have thought we'd be talking about this in the Grace Meeting on Sunday morning? The point of an hors d'oeuvre is this. There's more to come. And the people who go nuts in this life saying, live fast, die young, are saying, there's nothing more to come. What we are saying, when you realize that God is real, He is great, I should fear Him, I'm saying, actually, the little joys in this life, I don't have to waste my life investing in them because this is all there is. What I'm saying is, there is more to come. And I realize in my attitude that I shouldn't get frustrated when the joys of this life just make me angry. What do you mean this is all I've got to eat tonight? But actually, I can just enjoy the trivial joys of life, like a baby being sick. Isn't that a joyful thing? If everything is on, do you know what? If this is all there is, I'll be left frustrated by things that can never make me satisfied. But if I realize that the things in this life, because of the bigness of God, are only a taster of what God will give me in heaven, I'm no longer left frustrated by the things of this world, but actually I can just find joy in the trivial fun that happens on a day-to-day. I'm not expecting not expecting them to fill me up. These things are just whetting my appetite for the eternal pleasures from Psalm 16 that Calvin spoke of at the start of the service. Fourth thing, last thing. It reminds me that there is hope. Remember the thing about a living dog versus a dead lion? His point of Ecclesiastes is this: it is better to be alive than dead. For this reason, verse 4, anyone who is among the living has hope. When I fear God, one of the things that reminds me, back in chapter 5 that Mark preached to us, God is in heaven, you are on earth. When I fear God, I'm reminded this life is not all there is, and that heaven is real. The question becomes, how do I get there? How do I get to the place where all uncertainties are gone? How do I get to the place where joy is full? How do I get to the place where authority is nothing but good? How do I get to the place where death has died? He says that you need to understand the greatness of God, revere Him, and realize that this life is not all there is, and as long as you are alive, there is hope for you to get to heaven. But even that comes by fearing God. Some of you know that when Jesus was crucified, just outside Jerusalem, He was crucified in between two criminals. They deserved to be there. And when they're hanging on the crosses, one of the criminals summons up enough energy, even though he's being battered and crucified, to slag Jesus. And he starts piling on the insults to the man in the middle. The other criminal speaks up and tells the other criminal off. And do you know what he says to him? He asks him a question. He says to the other criminal, "Don't you fear God?" And then he carries on by saying this: "We are under the same sentence. We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man," meaning Jesus, "has done nothing wrong." And then he said to Jesus, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." This man hanging on a cross realized that death was certain. Life was not uncertain for this man anymore. He was moments from death. And yet in that moment, he feared God because he realized he was wicked. But he feared God in seeing that Jesus was righteous. And as we see Jesus crucified between two criminals, we should fear God because we see the righteous getting what the wicked deserve, so that the wicked could get what the righteous deserve. See, my only hope for heaven, your only hope for heaven, is when Jesus died on the cross, that He died to take the wickedness of this criminal upon Himself and to give the criminal the righteousness that was only His. So that not only can you cope amid the uncertainties of life, but that you can have hope for paradise beyond this life. But that only comes if you fear God. See, for all of us this morning, there's a certainty that one day we will die. If you are alive today, you have hope. So let me ask you the question. You are certain that you will die. Are you certain of where you will go after you die? Because if you are currently a living dog and not a dead lion, then there is hope for you that you can have a hope for paradise rather than a forever fear of hell. Today is a day for you to find, for the first time maybe, hope in the face of death, and maybe joy in the middle of all the uncertainties that this life brings. Are you certain of where you will spend eternity? It begins by fearing God. It ends with trusting Jesus. Where are you at?